Hi, Elle. Welcome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Maybe let's start before we get into your film work with a little bit introduction about yourself and the kind of films that you make.
Okay, well, my name is Elle Callahan. I live in Los Angeles and I make genre, mostly horror films. That's my dog Jinx.
Excellent, thank you. So it's pretty exciting to see that Witch Hunt is finally going to have its premiere at South by Southwest in the Midnighters section. So I know that in your notes you talk about being a fan of magic and fairy tales and those sort of themes. Can you maybe expand if there were any specific aspects or stories that sort of influence the mood that you were going for in Witch Hunt?
I mean, I think just the history of witchcraft in general really inspired me. It was very a common thing for women to be persecuted for, being educated or being as seen as an other or living on the kind of outskirts of society. And then there are, other kind of creative influences like Pan's Labyrinth was a big influence for me. Magical kind of stories like that. Like A Similar World in True Blood, where they kind of had vampires that lived in America. So yeah, I kind of pulled from those and tried to create an original story from that.
Mm-hmm. So I understand that you wanted to set it. Was it always that you wanted to set it in sort of like a current times America?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did, because I just I don't know, there's been so many stories about witchcraft in the past, or they're set in modern day, and I just felt like if witches were to, come out overnight, I think that it would be, a very confusing and, scary concept for some people. And unfortunately, I think it would lead to a lot of oppressive situations because it's something that we don't understand and we can't control, and that's what I thought would happen.
Right, and it kind of is timely in a way that you are bringing up this issue of persecution and oppression, and given the context that we're living in as well now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different groups of people that are oppressed for just being different, and so I tried to show that in this story. I mean, I was trying to make it about the girls and their journey, and Claire's understanding of herself and acceptance of this kind of magic that exists in her world. But at the same time, it's like we're seeing that in our own world today without magic. So
Yeah, I really liked that you chose to showcase the two young women, because it is the time of young people now of sort of, I guess, becoming woke, and or just realizing their own sort of powers and abilities in terms of being outspoken for themselves. Can you talk a little bit about your casting with regards to the characters of Claire and Fiona, because I found them quite their relationship quite endearing, but also quite strong.
Sure, yeah. I mean, Claire was played by Gideon Adlon, and she's an amazing young actress, and she had such a grip on the character from the get-go, and also just such a great understanding of witchcraft in general. She really brought her own magic to Claire, and it was a tricky character because, Claire had a lot of influences on her, especially her friends who weren't as understanding as her, and playing that and still having sympathy from the audience and having a good arc was a really kind of a hard ask. And I think Gideon did an amazing job. And then Abby, who played Fiona, was so in tune with kind of the struggles and isolation that her character felt growing up. And it was kind of the same thing. It's like I like to cast based on people who kind of feel more in tune with the character than even I am as the writer, and just letting them kind of run with it. And they both did an amazing job.
Excellent. I think they did a great job as well. Can you maybe talk about Elizabeth Mitchell as Martha and sort of, her role and how you were able to have her be part of the story?
Elizabeth is a fantastic, like just so fantastic, and she is kind of the most collaborative presence I've ever worked with. And she, really liked the script, and I think she brought an empathy and compassion to Martha that didn't exist in the character beforehand, and this kind of quiet control that was great to see played against our villain, who had such a kind of like abrupt and like oppressive presence. So she really took the character and ran with it and made Martha just this amazing motherly figure who was also, doing big things
Exactly.
in background.
Yeah, I like that aspect of her character, that we know that she's well-intentioned, and then eventually we learned also there is a backstory to why she's also fighting quite fiercely to support the witches in her world. You mentioned the villain, Detective Hawthorne. Can you talk about Christian Camargo? I mean, a lot of us know him from his other work on TV and elsewhere, but it's nice to see him again in this kind of sphere of film.
Yeah, Christian is such a structured presence. He had such a clear view for his character, and he was playing such a different type of vibe than everyone else in the film, and I think he did an amazing job. And he was very collaborative. He had great ideas that just brought his character to that next level, and that's the kind of actor that you want to work with, someone that wants to take what you've created and make it better. And that's exactly what he did, and he made it pretty terrifying in a good way.
Yeah, he's pretty good that way, and it's also his screen presence is quite strong as well, I think.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were hoping for with that character, to just have this kind of quiet, terrifying control, and he brought that to every scene that he was in.
Yeah, it kind of made me think, not to diverge, but it kind of made me think of oh my God, I'm escaping this actor, escaping his name. Oh, Robert Mitchum, in that iconic film where he's wearing like black and white and he's sort of very menacing without really doing much on screen. So I think that's sort of what I found in Christian's character. So I do appreciate that role quite a lot. I wanted to talk a little bit about maybe your location and purposely setting it sort of in this sort of border town kind of area. Can you talk about your location and where this was filmed?
Yeah, so this was filmed maybe an hour north of Los Angeles. We wanted to stay in the studio zone, just so that, we could have an easier time shooting. And this location was amazing. A lot of films are shot up there. They shot Westworld up there, like some of the Annabelle movies. And it was just this kind of beautiful environment. And we found like the perfect house that just existed out there. And it just kind of felt right. And you feel like you're isolated, but you also feel like you're kind of part of society. So it kind of was the right amount of balance between like fictional and reality.
Did you have to build part of that setting, like the house? I don't want to give too much away, but
we did. We built the whole kitchen. We built, the dining room out and the living room. This is totally empty. It's a shooting house, so it's not a functional house.
Right.
So we built all that, and then the upstairs was actually a different location. It was in a different house in downtown Los Angeles, because we had so many specific needs for this house that it was kind of impossible to find one house that fit them all, especially with the passageways and secret compartments. But this house on the shooting ranch was perfect for that, because it was kind of meant to be like personalized. We had to do it all ourselves, but it was definitely worth it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know otherwise, but I mean, definitely kudos to your team in terms of set design, but editing as well, because it all kind of comes quite seamlessly at the end.
Movie magic.
Movie magic, indeed. I also like the nod to Thelma and Louise, so thank you for that one. Yeah, I really appreciated that one. It kind of brought a lot of memories from when I was young and I watched that film for the first time. Maybe something that I'm curious about is, you know, the images of the cross and that we see throughout the film. Can you maybe share a little bit on that?
Sure. I mean, they follow the Southern Cross, which is the constellation that points to the Southern Star. And, you know, religion had a big aspect in a lot of witch burnings in history. And I didn't really want it to be a big part of this film, but I did want to allude to it and pay homage to that kind of, you know, history that witchcraft has. So I let it pop up here and there.
That's nice. It's a nice, it was a nice touch. I'm mindful of time, but I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the use of music in the film, and if that is something that you work collaboratively with your
Composers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I come from sound design, so sound is always a big thing for me, and our composers were amazing. They wrote most of kind of the vibe of the score before we even started filming. And that was kind of helpful because we were able to kind of, you know, shoot the film in a way where we kind of knew the sonic vibe already. And it was a lot easier to then finesse the score afterwards. But, you know, there's so much in the music in terms of like, you know, the villain is his score is very percussive, and witches, it's very, you know, it's like very fluttery, and it's really fun to actually dive into. There's a lot packed in there. So
yeah, I especially for genre films, sound plays such a huge it's like a huge element in films of that genre. But I also liked not just the music, but you mentioned sound design, and I do like sort of the whisperers that we kind of hear. And in my hearing, I heard butterfly sounds also. So those are nice touches that I appreciate.
Butterfly that someone's hearing this.
Yeah, so I do appreciate that. So the film is going to have its, is it the world premiere at South by Southwest?
Yep.
And how can we find more information on the film for people who may be outside of the US later on?
I mean, you guys can follow me on Instagram. I post about it a lot, but besides that, it's just, you know, South by will have information about it, and then, you know, we're just gonna kind of go from there, see where it goes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you.
All right.